sounds better between these two modes that we spoke about in the business meeting.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll switch it back to the original mode. You make a noise. Let's see how it sounds.
Okay.
Hello, hello, hello. Testing, 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 testing. Yeah.
Switch it to be what it was before.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, we're just testing the sound a bit. It would be a little bit noisy for a while. Hello? Testing? 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 Hello? Hello? Okay.
And good evening, everyone. This evening we'll chant the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Setting in Motion the Wheel of Dhamma Sutta in Pali. That's in page 3 in the golden-colored volume, excuse me, of the two chanting books. And Ajahn Kachana, may I invite you to do the solo introduction, please, when it comes time. So.
Yata kata upo anta patipati chamajima Chatu swari asache suvisudam yana dasanam Desitang dhamarajena sama sambodhikitanam Namena visutang sutang dhammacakkappavattana Veyakarana sangitantam Namase
Ewame sutang Ekang samayang bhagava varanasiyang viharati ese patane megadaye tatrago bhagava panchavagiye bhikkhu amante siddhave me bhikkave anda babajite nanase Jayang game sugama sukalika niyoga hino gamo podu janiko anariyo anata sanhito yo jayang adakila mata niyoga dugo anariyo anata sanhito ete Bhikkhave yupo ante yanubhagamma majima patipada tatagatena abhisambuddha jagakarani jnanakarani ยุปัสสมายาปิญญายาสัมโพธายานิพพานายาสังวาดาธิกาตมาจะสาภิกเวมาจิมาปฏิปทาตถากเตนะอภิสัมพุทธาจักขุการณิญาณการณิอุปัสสมายาปิญญายาสัมโพธายานิพพานายาสังวาดาธิยายาเมวะหริโยอาจังกิโกมาโกเสยติตังสัมมาทิฏฐิสัมมาสังกัปปะสัมมาวาจาสัมมากัมมันโตสัมมาอาชีวะสัมมาวายามะสัมมาสติสัมมาสมาธิยังโกสัพเพกเวมาจิมาปฏิปทาตถากเตนะสัมพุทธาจักขุการณิญาณการณิอุปัสสมายาปิญญายาสัมโพธายานิพพานายาสังวาดาธิอิตังโกภานาภิกเวทุกขอริยสัจจังจาติปิทุกขาจาราปิทุกขามรณังปิทุกขังโสกปริเทวทุกขโทมนัสสุปายาสาปิทุกขอาปิเยหิสัมปโยโกทุกขปิเยหิวิปปโยโกทุกขยัมปิจังกัลปฏิตัมปิทุกขังสังคิเตนะปัญจุปาทานาขันธาทุกขอิตังโกปานาภิกเวทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังญายังทันหาโพโนปาปิกานันติราคะสหกตาตัตระตัตระปินันเทนิสัยยติดังกามตัณหาภวตัณหาวิภวตัณหาอิตังโกปานาภิกเวทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังโยทัสสะเยวตัณหายาเสสะภิราคะนิโรธจักขปฏินิสสโกมุติยานาลโยอิตังโกปานาภิกเวทุกขนิโรธกามนิปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังอายเมวะอริโยอาทังกิโกมาโกเสยติดังสัมมาทิฏฐิสัมมาสังกัปปะสัมมาวาจาสัมมากัมมันโตสัมมาอาชีวะสัมมาวายามะสัมมาสติสัมมาสมาธิอิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจันติเมภิกเวปุเปยานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาริญญาณังอุทธปาริปัญญาอุทธปาริวิชชาอุทธปาริยาโลโกอุทธปาริตังโกปานิตังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญญายันติเมภิกเวปุเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจักขุงอุทธปาริญญาณังอุทธปาริปัญญาอุทธปาริวิชชาอุทธปาริยาโลกอุทธปาริจังโฆปานิทังทุกขังอริยสัจจังปริญญาทันติเมภิกเวปุเปอานานุ สุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิอิดังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังกปานิตังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังปะหาตาปันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังกปานิตังทุกขสมุทัยโยอริยสัจจังปะหินันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิอิดังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังกปานิตังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังสัจจิกาตาบันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังกปานิตังทุกขนิโรธอริยสัจจังสัจจิกตันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิทิตังทุกขนิโรธกามนิปฏิปทาอริยสัจจันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังกปานิตังทุกขนิโรธกามนิปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังปาเวทาปันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิตังขปานิทังทุกขนิโรธกามนิปฏิปทาอริยสัจจังปาวิตันติเมภิกขเวภูเปอานานุสุเตสุธัมเมสุจากังอุดาปาดิญาณังอุดาปาดิปัญญาอุดาปาดิวิชาอุดาปาดิอาโลกอุดาปาดิยาภาคิวันชะเมภิกขเว อิเมสุจัตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปาริวาตังดาวาดัสสาการะยะตาพุทธังญาณดัสสนังนัสเวสุดังอะโหสิเนปะทาบาหังปิกเวสะเดวะเกโลเกสัมมาระเกสัพพะมะเกสัสมานาพระมณียาปัจจายสะเดวมนุสายาอนุตตรังสัมมาสัมโพธิอภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสังยะโตจักวาเมปิกเวอิเมสุจัตุสุอริยสัจเจสุเอวันติปาริวาตังดาวาดัสสาการะยะถาพุทธังญาณดัสสนังสเวสุดังอโหสิอัตถาหังปิกเวสะเดวะเกโลเกสัมมาระเกสัพพะมะเจสัสมานาพระมณียาปัจจายอาเสสะมนุสายาอนุตตรังสัมมาสัมโพธิอภิสัมพุทโธปัจจัญญาสังญาณัญจปานาเมดาสนังอุดาปาริยกุปาเมวิมุตติยายามันติมาจาตินาติตานิปุนาภโวติธัมมโวจะภะคะวะอะธัมมานาปัญจวัคคียาเบกะภะคะวะโตปะสิตังอะภินันตุเอมัสมินจะปานาเวยาการณาสามิบัญญมาเนอายสมาโทโคนดานยาสาวิราชเวทมาลังดัมมจากุงอุดาปาดิยังกินชิสมุทัยธัมมังสาบันตังนิโรธธัมมันติภาวะติเตจะภะคะวะตาธัมมจากเกปุมมาเดวาสาดามานุสาเวสุงเอทังภะคะวะตาปารานาสิยังอิสิปัตเนเมกาตาเยยานุตตรังธัมมจักกังภวาติทังอาปฏิวาทิยังสมเนนะวาพระมเนนะวาเดเวนะวามาเรนะวาพระมุนาวาเกนะจิวะโลกัสมินติปุมมานังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวะจาตุมมหาราชิกาเดวาสาธามานุสาเวสุจาตุมมหาราชิกานังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวะตาภเติงสาเดวะสาธามานุสาเวสุตาภเติงสานังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวายามาเดวะสาธามานุสาเวสุยามานังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวาทุสิตาเดวาสาธามานุสาเวสุทุสิตานังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวานิมานาราติเดวาสาธามานุสาเวสุนิมานาราตินังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวาปารณีเมตตาวาสาวาทิเดวะสาธามานุสาเวสุปารณีเมตตาวาสาวาทินังเดวานังสาดังสุตตวาพระมกายิกาเดวะสาธามานุสาเวสุเ
เอตังภะคะวะตาปาราณสียังอิสิปตาเนเมกดายอนุตตรังธัมมจักกังภวัตติตังอาปาติวัติยังสัมมาเนนะวะพระมเนนะวะเดเวนะวะมาเรนะวะพระมุนาวะเกนะทิวาโลกัสสมินติติหะเทนะกะเนนะเตนะมะหุเตนะยาวะพระมโลกัสสะโดอาภุกาจิยายัญจัตตาสัสสะหาสิโลกดาตุสังคัมปิสัมปะกัมปิสัมปะเวดิยาปมาโนจะโหลาโรโกบาโสโลเกภาตุระโหสิยติกาเมภะเดวานังเดวานุปาวังอัตตะโกภะคะวะอุดานังอุดาเนสิยัญญาสิวัตโบกอนดานโยอัญญาสิวัตโบกอนดานโยติอิติหิตังอายสมาโตกอนดานยาสะอัญญากอนดานโยตะเววนามาอโหสิติธัมมจักรปวัตนาสุทังนิตติตัง
This being a full moon, so on the full moons and new moons, there's the opportunity for lay guests, lay visitors, to request the 3 refuges and 8 precepts. This is a temporary for the guests that are living here. You're automatically living on the 8 precepts, but this is an opportunity to participate in a formal ceremony if you wish. This is not obligatory, and also lay visitors might wish to just establish these precepts for the day and night, for this evening and through until tomorrow morning. And so it's the 5 precepts, but then adding in a significant layer of renunciant precepts. So instead of sexual misconduct, it's celibacy, and then the 6th, 7th, and 8th precept. So not eating until dawn tomorrow morning, not taking solid food. Yeah, and refraining from entertainments. The phrase in the book, entertainment, beautification, and adornment. So, just not distracting ourselves through entertainments, singing, dancing, watching things on the internet or TV. And then lastly, to not overindulge in sleep. The precept is phrased to not lie or in a high or luxurious sleeping place, which is an interesting phrase. But it's to not overindulge in sleep is one skillful way of looking at that. So people wishing to do this, and will only do it if there's a request. So maybe people that are more familiar with this could take a lead on it if it's going to happen. And it begins with 3 bows. It's on page 131 in the dark brown volume of the chanting books, 131. And it begins with, it's the request, group with a monk. And so, those of you who are going to participate, maybe prepare to bow together is a good way of starting. And then maybe one of the voices can go, okay. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang nittitang. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature. Adinna dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. Brahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from intentional sexual activity. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying. Sura meraya majapamadhatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from eating at inappropriate times. Nachagita vadita visukadasana mala ganda vilepana dharana mandana vipusanatana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from entertainment, beautification, and adornment. Uchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from lying on a high or luxurious sleeping place. Yemani atta sikkhapadani samadhiyami. Imani atta sikkhapadani silena sugatinyanti silena bhoga sampada silena nibuddhinyanti tasama silang visotaye.
Brahma Chaloka Dipati Saham Pati Katanjali Anadi Varangaya Chata Santida Sata Paraja Kajatika Te Se Tu Dhammang Anukampi Man Pacha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Before we start, I just want to check. Can everybody hear me okay? Is there any yeah, it's okay? Good, yeah, we've quite grateful that we've received some feedback lately that sometimes it's not loud enough, and so we're going to be working on that, just in case other people have experienced that. So, see if we need any new equipment. So this is the full moon of August, but it's the second full moon. This is a particular one of those years that there's two full moons in the same month, and it's referred to, at least in the West, as a blue moon. So it's a particular moon, and so this also marks, we've now passed through the first month of the 3-month rains retreat. Following the Asian seasons, following the Buddhist tradition of spending these 3 months together. That's typically from the full moon of July, but this year we started in the beginning of August. So yeah, we're 1/3 of the way through the Vasa, the rains retreat. Several members of the community have completed their solitary retreats. We each get a period of solitary retreat, and so some people have been emerging over the last week, and today a few, and then some starting tomorrow, including myself. And so having these different opportunities to practice in sort of different modes. And so we have things like this, that we practice together, like this, or people all together. We do quite a lot of that here, the typical routine every morning, every evening. So pulling out of the normal routine is another way that we can follow our own energies, our own schedule. So today being the full moon, so on the full moons and new moons we reestablish our precepts, reflect on our precepts. So the bhikkhus this morning had the recitation of the Patimokkha. One monk recites by heart, one monk checks, and the rest of us listening in. The samaneras and anagarkas, and on the female side, the Ajahn Chittapala as a Siladhara, she has a particular ceremony she does, and if there were four Siladhara, they would have their recitation. That's the minimum number required. And Agarka Kelly also is re-establishing her 8 precepts. And so this evening, it's the members of the lay community, members, and whether they're staying here or not, visiting, they have that opportunity to, precepts. It's that reminder, re-establishing. So that's a huge part of what the Buddha was emphasizing and encouraging, is this precepts, establishing integrity, ethical integrity. A lot of the precepts, when we get into renunciation precepts, they don't have an ethical content. It drops out of the ethical realm and into renunciation, and in particular for the monastic community, for the Siladhara and the bhikkhus, where we've got hundreds of precepts, and so a lot of them are it's really just really small. Many of them just really mundane. How to look after our requisites, how to not our own requisites, to how to look after the monastery. Things like that, and so they have there's a communal aspect and a very practical aspect. So yeah, that's as the Buddha left behind. People famously ask him when they realized when he said he was about to pass away. So who will lead the sangha? And he said, Dhamma Vinaya. So the teaching and the discipline, teaching and discipline. So, but within those two aspects, there's this whole array. We've got the Noble Eightfold Path, and within the Four Noble Truths, we chanted that this evening in the Pali language, and it's very broad. The teachings are very broad. It's really, I feel, a very holistic and broad path that the Buddha offered us and left behind. And one of the things in terms of development as a human being, to develop on a spiritual path, but just to develop as a human being, that the Buddha emphasized was to be open and receptive to feedback, to be receptive to getting encouragements, feedback, from our spiritual friends, our teachers. So the Pali phrase for spiritual friend is kalyanamitta, a good friend. And this is someone who's willing to actually offer us something, which is very precious. The Buddha emphasized how precious it is to receive feedback, and he certainly wasn't saying that it's easy to receive feedback necessarily. That it can be challenging to hear sometimes other people's perceptions of our behaviors, and but if people are coming from the right place, this is incredibly valuable. And so, the Buddha was even famously quoting it as because one of the other venerable elders said, Kalyanamitta is a portion of the holy life, and the Buddha said, no, it's the whole of the holy life. And so, having teachers and guides and mentors and these spiritual friends who are actually willing to offer us something when they see or hear of us maybe in need of that. And for us to not be open to feedback, the Buddha was very clear that this is really a lost opportunity if we let our deluded mind states or ego or whatever get in the way of us actually receiving it and considering it, just no matter how painful. And then if we have doubts about that person's perceptions, is to follow up on it. Go and find somebody else that we're comfortable with, and another Kalyanamitta, and share with them what was offered to us. And ask, to be brave, to have the courage to consider this and ask, well, I heard this and I was offered this, but I don't know, I have doubts around this, or whatever, and to ask, what do you think? To really take the plunge, and I know it's because I've done it, and even it can bring up some trepidation, some reluctance to go and ask for feedback because we're afraid of what we might hear, and that's natural. We don't. I don't like receiving negative feedback. I'm not into that. And but to really open ourselves up so that we can consider our behaviors, which are probably, most likely, because if we're not aware of them, then it's what we call a blind spot. This is this English phrase, a blind spot. And I've heard, sometimes I've heard people say, "I don't have any blind spots. I don't see any of my blind spots." Well, yeah, that's why they're called blind spots, because we don't see them. And if nobody points them out to us, where are we? Where are we? And if we're not, if we're not willing, if we won't receive, if we, put up a wall or react badly, and respond perhaps in a way that makes the person who is offering us feedback feel reluctant. Maybe they see something in the future, and they have this memory, this experience of a bad reaction, strong reaction, and and if this goes on, depends on the person offering the feedback, but if they see a pattern, there's a really good chance they're going to stop offering us that. Yeah, there's a really good chance they'll just say, "Nah, this person's not receptive. It's too painful. It's too painful to offer it to them." And so it's really up to us, each and every one of us as an individual, to consider this and take on board, to reflect. If somebody does offer us feedback, to really reflect, okay, is there something there? And to thank, actually express gratitude for people being open and having the courage to offer us feedback. So, and the Buddha, excuse me, he offered some guidelines, quite a few guidelines around how to offer feedback. And I'm not going to read out all of them, but I just picked out the ones that I felt were most appropriate to share this evening. And so one is to check within ourselves. So if we're going to be offering some feedback to somebody, is to check, well, what about my own behaviors? Are my behaviors, and the way it's phrased in the text and translated into English is, am I pure in my bodily and verbal conduct? So one can say, well, does that mean we can haven't ever done anything wrong? I've asked my teachers about that, and they said that's not their understanding, because that's a very high bar. That who's gonna be able to reach that bar? But it's more, within a reasonable amount of time. Even if we've had the fault, a fault that we're willing to point out to somebody else, is to, have we maybe overcome that? Have we overcome that? Have we been able to establish ourselves in a more skillful way? So are we pure in that? So if we're offering somebody feedback around speech patterns or ways of speaking, maybe people are using harsh speech, false speech, divisive speech, any sort of coarse speech. If we're going to offer them feedback around that, well, how's our behavior? Are we doing those things? So, because who's going to listen to us if we're doing those things? Same with our actions. If it's something around action. Have we really established ourselves in good habits, good patterns? Are we pure in that within a reasonable amount of time? And so that's very important to first and foremost, before we're going to offer somebody feedback. And then also, are we motivated by goodwill? What's our motivation to offer the feedback? Because it isn't... Kalyanamitta doesn't necessarily mean... A spiritual friend doesn't necessarily mean our buddy or our friend. Are we thinking, well, I'm going to give that person feedback, and if it's somebody maybe we've got a grudge with, or some sort of ill feeling, or you're trying to get them in some way or embarrass them. Obviously, this is not a place to come from when we're offering feedback. Is to really, okay, why am I offering this? Is it for their well-being and the well-being of the people around them? Or is it just for my well-being, so I feel good, maybe get them to do what I think they should be doing? But to really consider, there's really goodwill for them. They must be involved in the aspect of goodwill. And so to establish that, before we even proceed. Then these next four are also equally important and crucial. Is it? I'll say, okay, we've established that ourselves we are pure in our conduct, body and speech. So, and we've established that we're coming from a place of goodwill. So, I'm going to approach this person. So, is it the right time? Is this the right time to approach them? So, to consider, okay, what would be a good time of day to do this? Ajahn Chah is quoted as saying to his monks there at Wat Pah Pong, in his monastery in Thailand, don't offer feedback like in the morning before the meal. It's been 23 hours since people have eaten. And they had a pretty basic diet. Probably haven't had much calorie, if any calories, in 22, 23 hours. Is that the time to offer somebody feedback? It's like going to visit a tiger, when it hasn't eaten for... I'm not saying that monks and nuns are tigers, but, we get hungry, and it can affect our mood. It can affect our mood also. We don't sleep a lot. You get up early in the morning. So, is it the right time? Is it the right time of day? Is it a comfortable time of day? Is it a busy time of day? Is that a very active time of day that we're going to try and stop somebody and offer them some feedback? Or is there spaciousness? And, is there time to sit down and find a place, time and place to sit down and maybe have a cup of tea together or something? But also to ask. We should ask. May I offer you some feedback? Would there be a convenient time I'd like to offer something, have something to share with you? Would that be possible? And if so, when would it be convenient for you to actually offer that person, that it's a co-decision, it's a convenient, convenient time to sit down and offer this. And then it's so place. Do we go up, even going up to a person that we wish to offer feedback to? Are we even asking them these questions when other people are around? That maybe people would overhear and go, and we might the person that we want to offer feedback to might feel a little bit embarrassed or feel ill at ease, and so approach them in the right place. It's time and place. So what we're trying to create are the optimum conditions for feedback to be received for the well-being of that person and people around them. So, and to speak what is factual. So, obviously it needs to be factual as we perceive it. It has to be a clear perception, and we need to really look within ourselves. So, is it just something we've heard from somebody else? Are we offering feedback based on what we've heard, or something that we suspect, or is it actually a clear perception of somebody's behaviors? And so that's very important. So to speak gently, obviously, to offer as gently as possible the feedback, to make sure that we're within ourselves, we're in a calm space internally, a calm place, a way of being, to not speak harshly, and to really maintain that as much as possible throughout the conversation. And to really speak what's connected with this particular feedback, to not let things stray. I mean, obviously things might take on other aspects, to help present this. We might need to go a little bit, but to not stray too far, to make sure that you really stay on topic and not maybe draw in other things or comparing to maybe, for instance, to other people in an unskillful way, but to really keep it on topic. Really be clear what kind of feedback, what the feedback is, and what kind of feedback we're going to offer. So, to really consider, to really prepare ourselves, if we're going to be offering feedback, to prepare ourselves to offer that as skillfully as possible. And as I said a couple of moments ago, and it's, I think, worthy of repeating, is that, the goal is well-being. The goal is to present something, to point something out, and to do that, using language that's not assuming that we're 100% right, is what I would suggest. Is it to use language saying, this is a perception, this is how I see it, and that if we come at somebody as an absolute truth, no, this is what you're doing, and there's no chance of it being otherwise. But to even use that language, saying, well, this is a perception I'm having, and this is the way I'm seeing it. This is the way I'm seeing it. We must, doing these things, we must be really cautious. And if somebody does approach us, so on the other side, as I said earlier in this sharing this evening, to be grateful, even if something's painful, to really consider that person is offering me something. Even if we feel, feel something negative, feel that it's a painful experience, that, to really consider, that somebody has taken the time and expending the energy, and they care for me. They care for my well-being, and this is for my benefit. If somebody approaches us and at the right time, hopefully the right place, hopefully with using skillful speech, and asked if they could offer us feedback, is to also prepare ourselves. That when we are going to meet, is to remind ourselves also of how to receive feedback. To be open and to really encourage ourselves. Listen before responding. Listen before we maybe interject or respond to what's being offered to us, so that we can really deeply listen, not surface listening. So then, from both sides, when we have this optimum, if we can create as close to possible an optimum atmosphere, an open mood, an open view, so an openness to receive and an openness to offer. Really good things can come out of this, and I've seen it. I've experienced it, and so my early years in monastic life at a Abhayagiri monastery in California, there was a lot of emphasis on nonviolent communication. That's I think many of us are familiar with. There was a real emphasis on developing enough comfort to offer feedback, to offer these things. And I'm really grateful, and I had a few opportunities. I had opportunities to receive feedback, as I have here. I've been very grateful for feedback received here in the last 5 years since I've been here, since I arrived, and then over the years, in those early years of monastic life, I developed enough. I'm grateful for developing enough comfort to offer feedback. I know sometimes when I'm, about to offer or wanting to offer somebody feedback, I don't feel. It's not like I feel totally comfortable. Sometimes I can actually feel in the body, that sort of, maybe just a little butterflies or that sort of hesitation of, it's because it's not something that I necessarily want to do. I don't want to go around offering feedback. I don't get any pleasure out of it. And similarly, when people have approached me as open as I try to make myself, so here again, there's that sort of inner, the body. I can really feel it in the body sometimes. It's quite subtle, but it's not comfortable. But if we can make ourselves, open to feeling also uncomfortable. Why does everything need to be comfortable? Where is it said? Where is it written that life has to be comfortable? But if we're really intent on developing as a human being, really intent in developing a skillful, peaceful way of being, I really feel this is something very, very, very important for us to consider. And just seeing how much the Buddha emphasized it in terms of his training, what he offered. And we should reflect on that. Why would he say, it's not half of the holy life, it's the whole of the holy life? That's a big statement. To just reflect on that. That kalyanamitta, that spiritual friendship. So that statement was not about feedback, but that kalyanamitta, but it fits in, because of that. Living together, whether we're living in a group or we're living near, maybe we're living a more hermetic life and we're living near other people, and seeing people is that either way, to be open to receiving feedback. And within our monastic structure, there is no, the feedback goes up and down the line. It has nothing to do with seniority. So famously, the famous vignette of the Buddha being admonished by his son. His son, Rahula admonished one of the great disciples of the Buddha. He was a novice, a little boy novice, and he admonished one of the great disciples, was walking past, and he did it properly. So what do we think happened? The elder received it and took it in the right way. So it's not about, somebody, a senior admonish, because the word often translated for the Pali word for feedback is ovada. It's often translated into English as admonishment, but I tend to steer away from that a little bit. Maybe it's just my own conditioning. The word admonishment always kind of, almost like sort of school teacher admonishing you or something. So maybe that's just my own hang-up. But I tend to use the more common word of feedback, which is also very much used in our tradition. And so, it's not based on seniority. And in fact, within our monastic rule, we're supposed to point certain things out to people. And if we don't point it out, we're actually we've made a small offense ourselves. And so it's built into the system, but skillfully. It needs to be done skillfully. That's the onus on the person offering it, and to receive it skillfully. That's the onus of the person receiving. And we should not consider this as something that just happens automatically, but it's something that can be developed. So if we find ourselves maybe, if we're in a situation either offering or receiving that maybe didn't go so great, is to learn from that. To learn, okay, how could that have been done in a different way that would have been, maybe they could have received that better, or if we were on the receiving end, could I have received that better? And so that there is growth. It's not in black and white, it's either on or off. No, there is to be developed, can be developed. And I would suggest that it should be developed. So I think I'll leave it there for us to reflect on for this evening. Okay. Okay, so this being a full moon, big moon, we're going to continue our vigil until midnight. For those of people who are staying, we'll stay till midnight. So in the hall, if we can limit the meditation postures to either sitting or just standing still, if we can't sit the whole time, but to standing meditation is very, very useful. And obviously coming and going from the hall as quietly as possible. And also if we can, those of us who are staying until midnight, if we can all be back in the hall by 11:30, so that the last half hour is just a half hour of more enhanced stillness. And then just before midnight we'll chant one of the reflections and then close at midnight. Okay, and then, tomorrow's Friday anyway, so it's a quiet day, so there's no morning puja. So anything else? And then for people who are here with cars, and if you are staying until midnight, we would be putting the bollards up in the driveway at 12:15. There'll be about 15 minutes at the end before we close up. Okay.